Well, today on the program, we're going to take a look back and I hope forward at what is going on in Afghanistan. A little bit earlier on in the summer, when I was in Saskatchewan, we had this opportunity to meet with a young Afghan woman, Umulbanin Arjmand. She and some of her young girl colleagues were able to escape with the help of some aid organizations, and they are living happily ever after in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. But that raised the question for us again, which is what has happened to Canada's promise to bring those Afghans that served alongside and with our forces in Afghanistan, to bring them here and out of the hands of the Taliban. Every week, as a senator, I get dozens of emails from Afghans. And again, we have no idea whether they're real or not. I'm assuming as I read them that many of them are asking, begging for us to try and bring them to Canada as our government promised it would do. We've turned, as we have in the past, to retired Major-General David Fraser, an honored and decorated man for his service. He served as the Brigadier General during Operation Medusa in Afghanistan. And when we saw the Taliban take back over, it was unfortunately in Canada on the eve of an election call, or at an election call. And so many of the programs just kind of got lost in the fray. But David and his military colleagues and journalists and other people gathered around to try and do something. So let's go to David Fraser and say, where are we at? What on earth has happened?
Well, Pamela, it's good to be with you today. And it's a great question because there is a mission that is still yet to be finished. And that mission is to bring 40,000 Afghans, including their families and loved ones, to this country. And many of those actually served our country. Without their contributions, Canada could not have done anything in that country in our longest commitment in any conflict in history. So we have a moral obligation to these Afghans to bring them to this country. And when you think 40,000, it's not a big number. When we brought 400,000 immigrants, and we already have gotten, what by one count, 70,000 Ukrainians. So there's an awful lot that is left to be done, and I think it's a great discussion point for today. What's the government going to do to finish off the mission?
The numbers are very low, extremely low. We had an update from ministers in August on the kind of the first anniversary, but we're nowhere near 40,000.
Nowhere near 40,000. I think we're somewhere about 18,000. And
yeah.
But the problem is that the bureaucracy is just moving at glacial speed, and there doesn't seem to be any political will from the ministers of any of the departments, global affairs or immigration, just to get this thing done. And the longer it takes to get done, the harder it becomes, because other pressing issues come up, like Ukraine, and look at tsunamis that are going on. I mean, we've got to get this thing finished, and we just need some political will and some bureaucratic oomph to get her done.
I mean, we learned at the time, and I don't want to rehash too much of it, but our ambassador had fled. We sent information out to Afghans and said, come to the airport and we'll have planes there for you, and bring your papers. And then they said, yes, but if we bring our papers, we'll be identified and killed. And when they got to the airport, there were no planes to get on anyway at that point. Everybody remembers that image. It was an American plane, of course, of an Afghan hanging on to that plane as it took off and falling to his death. It's just, it's so shameful. And what did we blow it from the beginning?
I think everybody blew it from the beginning. The assessment of how long the Afghan authorities were going to stay when the Taliban started making the push was completely underestimated. The far beyond the political decision to pull out, it was just how fast this thing unraveled, and even surprised the Taliban. So it was a bit of a pickup game to get in there to start pulling people out who needed to come out. And Canada did not demonstrate a successful mission there. It was actually a fiasco. And it was something that we shouldn't be proud of, and we should ask them pretty hard questions, because when Americans, British, Ukrainians were sending troops into the city, we sent emails. And those people never got to talk to anybody. Our embassy wasn't as very much helped. As you say, the ambassador wasn't there. The global affairs people, it was not good. And the other thing I would say is the US have done an after action review on this, scathing, but they're going to learn from it. The British have done an after action review, scathing, and they will review it and they will change. Canada, nothing. And this is just, I'm so disappointed that we haven't taken the opportunity to see what we could have done, and so it doesn't happen again. But it wasn't a highlight for any country, including ours.
So you had retired from the military. You're currently the president of Aegis 6 Corporation. This specializes in risk management and strategic communications. And I know you and some of your former military colleagues actually worked privately and behind the scenes to get people out, things that the government was incapable or unwilling to do.
Yeah, so before Afghanistan fell, two other retired generals, Dennis Thompson and Dean Milner, and I got together and said, "Hey, look, we're committed to this mission because we served there. We lost great Canadians who were serving there, and internationalists, people, and we owe it to the Afghans to get them out." So we wrote a letter. Never did we think it would unravel as much as we did. We got associated with organizations like Journalists for Human Rights and Aman Laura, just to name two. And it's an ad hoc volunteer groups, charitable organizations. And today, over a year later, we're still at it. It's just staggering that we're still at it. And in fact, I was just texting and on Signal with our Afghan group, because we're still receiving applications. We're hearing the stories that you're hearing. We're working with the government authorities, but it is very difficult to try to keep their morale, those Afghan morale up. While at the same time, bureaucracy just seems to be chugging along with no output.
What is the reasoning, do you think, behind this? As you say, when we put our minds to it as a country, we can bring in Ukrainians. We have done this for decades in our country. When there's a humanitarian crisis, we act. And Canadians as individuals have stood up and written the checks and helped and opened homes and made that kind of a difference. Why is it that government can't get its head around this particular issue?
In a word, will. It's, they don't have the will to do it, and it's not a priority. I mean, they're well-meaning, and I commend the bureaucrats that we're dealing with, and I believe that the ministers are sincere in what they're saying. But there has to be grit. There has to be a shoulder put behind those words to actually not just talk about it, but actually do it. And I think Canadians are owed action and not just words. And what we're seeing right now is a half-hearted attempt to get things done. And we're close to getting this thing done, but they just have to lean in one last time, put it across the finish line, and let's just move on. But right now, it's just not a priority.
So it's kind of off the radar. I mean, as I said, a statement sort of around the anniversary and then nothing. I mean, the letters and the emails that I get are very, they're still having the same problem they had a year ago. They've got documents and they've got nowhere to take them. Sometimes they're in a third country, their documentation has expired, so they're left there. Half of them, if not all of them, have some family that's still alive, but many have family members that have been killed because of their association with us.
Absolutely. And this is where I think leadership, we need some leadership, we need some determination. And I look at our own prime minister and saying, you've got the mandate letters given to your ministers, and this is part of one of the mandate for immigration. Why are you not leaning on your immigration minister to say, get on with it? this country's got some serious things to worry about and to work on, like inflation, Ukraine, the economy. We still got to bring in immigrants to make this, country work. But why are we still talking about this a year after the fact and counting? Pamela, you're absolutely right. This is where the Prime Minister's got to get angry and quite frankly, not be singing Bohemian Rhapsody. He should be on the phone to the immigration minister saying, hey, I want this mission finished. And and I'll give you another task once you get it done, but finish it.
These people, I mean, as you know, I was in Afghanistan several times. These are the people that interpreted and guided and were every bit as at your side as your fellow soldiers. They were certainly with us when we went out to meet tribal leaders or to see our troops in actions. Like, we literally could not have conducted what was a very successful operation for Canadian men and women of the armed forces. Our reputation was upheld and proved once again, and now this.
Pamela, you saw it firsthand. They weren't just interpreters; they were cultural advisors. Right. Afghanistan is a exceptionally complicated mosaic of cultures and tribes and regional politics. And my cultural advisor, and I hired him as an interpreter, but I said that's wrong. As soon as I got there, he said, "You are my advisor. You got to tell me not what the word said, but what's going on behind the words, and the understanding the difference between the Tajiks, the Hazaras, or the Pashtuns, and the Durrani line, which separates the Pashtun society, where in fact there is no country of Afghanistan or Pakistan. It's just the Pashtun society, and they're broken down the tribes. These men and women who served us allowed us to actually have a successful mission. We didn't have them, we wouldn't be talking about success. We would be talking about just a military engagement that wasn't very helpful, because the people we would have disassociated ourselves with people. And this speaks to one thing that I want to emphasize. This truly was Canadian. Canada is multicultural, multi-ethnic. These Afghans are multicultural, multi-ethnic. And this is where we actually share an awful lot in common. And so we should actually, think about bringing these people over, because they would fit into Canada perfectly. They're hardworking, well-meaning people. We need people to work in our economy. I can't think of another nation that, is better than the Afghans that I served with.
David, for people that are sitting out there asking the same questions that you and I are today, what can they do? What should they do? What would help you do what you're doing?
Well, at the tactical level, you go to groups like Journalists for Human Rights, and you go to Amanda Laura, and open up your pockets, and if it's $5, $10, whatever you can give, if you can't give it, tell your friends to give some money, because it goes directly to help out those Afghans. On the other side, get in contact with your MP, get in contact with the Prime Minister, and just, this is a bipartisan issue. This has got nothing to do about Liberals or Democrats, this is about Canada. Canada stands for human rights. I am proud to be a Canadian, wear the flag, to talk about human rights and about diversity. And then I look at what we're doing in Afghanistan, and it actually, it disappoints me. So I would go back to the Prime Minister to say, why don't you just finish this mission off? Because this is what Canada is about, and this is what we all strive for. We're a nation of immigrants, so let's just finish it.
Put our actions where our rhetoric is.
Exactly. Action. Let our actions be our calling card.
Yeah, let it be. I thank you so much for continuing on this this fight. You have just been relentless, and those around you. And I hope we can all just take your advice and put this back in to the lens again. I know, as you say, everybody is facing a lot of other issues need days, but we can't let this one fall off. We really need.
And Pamela, thank you for keeping it alive. This is important, because this is what Canada is really about, and we owe it to these people. We owe it to our own citizens. So thank you.
Yeah, we owe it both ways. Retired Major-General David Fraser, 32 years of service in the Canadian Armed Forces, currently the president of Aegis 6 Corporation. But most importantly, he does put his actions where his rhetoric is, and he does save lives. Thanks, David, very much.
Thanks, Pamela.
Good. We'll talk again soon, I'm sure, to follow up. And as I mentioned at the beginning, just for some context around this, where you're going to meet this young woman, Umulbanin Arjmand, 19 years old. Talk about courage and guts. She fled Kabul in September last year and got herself, it's a long and winding route. She'll tell the story. She's in Saskatoon, going to high school at Nutana. And we had a very interesting conversation with her that's coming up right now. Welcome to No Nonsense. I'm going to tell you a bit of a story today because recently when Prince Charles was in Canada, I had the opportunity to go and meet with people who are involved in some of his charities. And I met a group of young Afghan women. And of course, because I'd been to Afghanistan, I took interest in this. So we are going to speak with one of those young women in just a minute, but let me give you a little bit of background. First, one of Afghanistan's very first co-ed schools was founded in 1998, was located in a poor neighborhood of Kabul. Over the course of the next 20 years, it became a beacon of hope for many. In August of 2021, as you all know, the Taliban violently took back Afghanistan. Hundreds of schoolgirls went into hiding. The Taliban prohibits girls' educations past the age of 11, and many feared being forced into, quote, marriages with Taliban fighters, having seen these kinds of atrocities happen before. Then the 30 Birds Foundation stepped in, and I will explain. This was a team of 8 ordinary citizens, journalists, lawyers, human rights activists, and Afghan expats, incorporated as 30 Birds. After evacuating the school's founder and his family, they turned their attention to the girls who, as young athletes, artists, medics, and musicians, were also receiving death threats from the Taliban. Determined to continue their education, these girls played an active role in coordinating their own escape. Under duress, moving in small numbers from city to city past the Taliban checkpoints, they would eventually help the 30 Birds group guide more than 400 Afghans, including family members and various activists for female education, safely across the border. So a word on the 30 Birds Foundation. This is also comes from a story. 1,000 birds set off in an epic quest in search of enlightenment, wisdom, and the phoenix, whom these birds hoped could revive their community. After a long and arduous journey, only 30 birds advanced to the final part of the journey. They reached the location where they had been told they could find the phoenix, but they only found a lake. Disappointed, the 30 birds peer into that lake, but they see only their own reflections. They realize that there is no phoenix. There is no phoenix waiting for them. The 30 birds realize that they are in fact the phoenix. No one else is going to revive their community for them or save them. The 30 birds are responsible for bringing their own community back to life. It's a great and wonderful story, and thanks to the humanitarian support of 30 Birds and the Prince's Trust, the UK charity, the Raoul Wallenberg Centre for Human Rights and Governments, many of these young women are now in Canada and they're surviving and thriving. So let me introduce Umulbanin Arjmand. Oh, she's giving me the head shake there. I've got it really close, but I'm going to call you Banin, right?
Absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
That's great. Welcome and nice to see you again.
Thank you. Nice to see you. It was my pleasure. It is my pleasure.
So tell us a little bit of your story. How did you end up in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan?
So, as we all know, after Taliban attacked Kabul last year, it's last year?
Yes, it's not even a year. It's just right now, August.
Yeah, and it is so hard. So, when Taliban attacked Kabul and take Kabul back, so everyone was disappointed, and it was so hard for all of us. Like, I got depression. Like, I didn't go outside for a week because it was so hard to believe that we are going back to 20 years ago, that woman has no right in our country, and we cannot go to school and do what we did before. So all of this happened, and after that, so 30 Birds helped us to get Canada visa. At the first, no one can believe that, because it was like magic for that on that time, because we had no more dreams, and everything was done for us. So when we heard that, it was very good news. So we decided to go to Mazar, because we used to fly from there to Pakistan. We went there in Mazar, and we've been there for 13 days, the most hard days in my life. I never experienced that, because our hotel was very close to a street. It was in a street, and there was lots of Taliban. Every second, every minute, they're going and coming. Even in our hotel, it was so hard for us to go out or come in. So on 30 days, we just alive, nothing else. After that, the 30 Birds takes back, contact back to our teachers and say that we had to go to Kabul and from Torkham, from border, we had to go to Pakistan, and that was so hard, because going back to Kabul. How on earth
did you? Yes, so first you had to go back, and this is all now controlled by the Taliban, and we know that they are vicious, and we know what happens to young women.
And it was so hard being in Mazar, the place that you don't know, the city that you don't know, and attacked by like humans that you don't know, and they are like stuck in the past, and they don't know nothing about humans' right, and especially women's right. It was so hard, and when we come back to Kabul, we couldn't believe that they will contact us back to, you can go Pakistan, but at that night they called us back that you have to go to Torkham at tomorrow 8 o'clock. And we didn't arrive home. We decided to go back to Torkham, and we was one night again in Kabul. We have been there, and then
are you with other girls or with your families, or how big a group is this?
So our group was about, I'm not very sure about the how many people was
because there, you were all kept separately.
But it was around 200 peoples.
Wow.
And we all traveled like separately, but at the same time, like different cars, that if we be in a one big bus or car, so absolutely they will know that something is wrong. And so we was with our families and some of our friends in this journey.
So then you eventually got to Pakistan.
From Torkham border we went to Pakistan.
And then the 30 Birds and other people helped get your paperwork done.
They sent us the night that we went back to Kabul. They sent us the border pass that we can pass a border with that paper.
Wow.
And it was so hard, because we had to done that like in very with security, like we can't go everywhere to print that papers, so we had to be very careful about that.
So how many of you got across into Pakistan?
At that time, so we passed the border 2 days, our team. So we was in first group, around, I'm sure around 90 to 100 peoples in one day, and the day after that, again half of the team passed the border.
So and you're doing this kind of clandestinely in dark of night, and being careful, and trying to look normal, and not trying to get the attention of the Taliban, so that they might wonder. So then, how did Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada come up? Was that the 30 birds that arranged where you would land, or did you just look at a map and point and say there?
So of course, no, we like look at the map and say point there. So 30 birds arrange all of these things, and yeah, and we came to Saskatoon after being a month in Pakistan.
Pakistan for a month.
For a month, yeah. And still, I couldn't believe that I'm here.
What did you have with you? Like, what were you allowed to bring? Did you have clothes or music or anything that? Nothing.
I mean, at that time, I deleted everything from my phone. That like I had my photos from my martial art and my school and everything. So I deleted all of them and I put them in a memory.
Yeah.
But I lost it in way because I had to hide it.
Yes.
And I bring nothing. Even I loved my book, and last night I just look at those books and I said I couldn't read that, and I couldn't find a time to do that, and I was so sad about that because we are not allowed to bring anything,
Right.
and
that was
so
your
hurt.
story. That was your life until
Yeah.
the change came.
Yeah, absolutely. And the hardest thing that I bring is my martial arts clothes, that because it was so meaningful for me. My life become meaningful when I start martial art,
Right.
and I grew up when I start martial art, and I couldn't leave my clothes over there, so I got a big risk of bringing that.
They would not be happy about girls taking martial arts.
Absolutely not. I couldn't believe if they find my clothes, so I will not be here today.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you landed in Saskatoon in October.
Yeah.
Did people tell you about winter?
In Pakistan, they say that winter gonna be so cold, but I couldn't imagine this much. Like our lashes are freezing
Yes.
in the winter.
Absolutely. Where when you landed here, where did you go? Who do you live in? Do you live with a family? Are you in a residence? What happened when you got here?
So when we got here, at the first we was in quarantine for like 14 days. After
Yes,
that,
of course.
open door, arrange everything, and they help us to find home. And I am with my family now. We are living in Saskatoon in East Side.
And your family from Afghanistan?
Yeah, my mom and my dad, my parents.
Both your parents were able to come?
Yeah.
Wow. So that's didn't happen for everybody.
Yeah, that's very good point, and it is, yeah.
So have your parents settled? Do they go to work? Do they?
So they're over 50, so they're retired. They count as a retired, still they didn't go to work.
Okay.
Yeah, they're trying to learn English,
Right.
but it is so hard in this age for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easier for you.
Yeah, kind of.
Did you speak any English when you left Afghanistan?
So we had to learn English because it was international language. So
At the school?
yeah, at the
Okay.
school as a language, and yeah, and also we got extra courses for English.
And what are you doing here in Saskatoon?
So I'm going to school, high school nowadays,
Yeah.
but it's so summer break, yeah.
And you are 19.
I'm 19, yeah.
And you've been through all of this.
Yeah, like it happens, so you have to deal with everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So you'll go back to school in the fall.
I will, yeah.
And have you taken up martial arts again?
I did. I'm very happy about that. Some people from here helped me to and help our team to find a place to do our martial art back again. Yeah.
So how often do you do that in a week?
Twice a week.
Twice a week.
Yeah.
And that gives you focus, it keeps you
Yeah.
connected.
Yeah, it feels great. Even it is hard, and yeah, it needs lots of energy, but it make me feel confidence and also free, and I love it.
So this is now your home.
Yeah, it is.
Do you have any other brothers and sisters? Anybody that's older or younger?
I'm the youngest in
Okay.
in my sibling. Yeah.
And where are your other brothers and sisters?
Unfortunately, they're all around the world, because when Taliban comes, so everyone like leave Afghanistan as soon as they can.
Right.
Yeah.
And went wherever they could.
Yeah. So before Taliban attacked, one of my sister went to England, United Kingdom.
Yeah.
And one of my brothers is in Sweden. After Taliban attacked, my two sisters went to United States. They just left Afghanistan, and after that we came here in Canada. And my brother went to Norway, and my three sisters in back home in Afghanistan.
They went home.
Yeah, they're back home.
Are they okay, or why did they do that?
No, they didn't went back to home.
Oh,
They
okay.
are in my back home in Afghanistan. They are not able to come.
Oh, they're still there, you mean?
Yeah, they
I
are
see what
still
you
there.
mean. Okay. No, that's and are they okay? How do you communicate with them?
I do communicate with them. Yeah. So we can't say they're perfect or they're very good. They're just living there.
They're
and
surviving.
They're surviving and trying to stay safe.
And are they going to try and leave themselves?
It is hard to do, because now there's lots of financial problem in Afghanistan, and
Yeah.
also it is hard to leave Afghanistan nowadays. So
Very, very hard.
very, very hard. And yeah.
Have you, the Canadian government, which of course helped you, but they've been criticized because we said we were going to bring so many Afghans, the men and women who worked with our soldiers, and it's all caught up in paperwork and it doesn't look like they're coming. Are you trying to talk to the government to say, please bring more?
I don't know how to do that, like connect with government and say, please bring more. Absolutely.
You can write them a letter. Are you worried about your sisters?
So absolutely, I am, because yeah, they're my sisters, and they have their own families and their young children.
Young
So
children.
yeah.
And do they have husbands?
Yeah. So one of my sister, her husband works in army,
Okay.
and yeah. So it is very hard for her and for him, because nowadays, like, her husband didn't have any job, and he couldn't find any job because he
Right.
worked in army, and
Right.
he couldn't like show up. So it is so hard to leave there.
What do they really do? Like when you talk to her, where do they get food? How do they live?
Our family, like my siblings that are in, my brother that is in, I forgot. I just
Or in Norway?
Yeah, Norway, and also in Sweden.
Yeah.
They help her sometimes with yeah.
Okay, so
financial.
they find ways to get money in
Yeah.
and do that.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to imagine, but the whole culture kind of works on cell phones.
Yeah.
And I was surprised when I went over there to discover that there were no landlines. Everybody in the world had a cell phone, and you're thinking you're in the middle of the desert and still, the phones work.
Yeah.
And everybody was quite sophisticated.
Yeah.
So that you can transfer money, they can still go to a bank, they could still...
They can, yeah.
Okay.
Like there's open, yeah, bank is open. But,
Okay,
yeah.
and they can do that without being traced. Do you think you'll ever go back?
I wish I can. I really wish, but it take long time. It will not happen so soon. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, you were just 20 years ago. I mean, you were just being born when the fight occurred, and
yeah.
when the troops went in, and everybody thought that was it. We were back. I mean, I went to schools where young
Yeah.
girls were learning reading and writing and math and all of those things, and then it's just like being thrown back into another time, another era.
Yeah. Like I myself, I born in Pakistan. I even didn't born in my own country because of war. My family, at the first time that Taliban attacked, my family went to Pakistan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were actually born there.
Yeah, I born
Yeah.
in Pakistan. Yeah,
Yeah.
I even didn't born in my own country. Yeah. When we in after 2011 that a new government made, so my family decided to go back to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up there and I went to school there, and things that just keep going. It become better every day, every year. I could see it with my own eyes, and I feel it. At the first, when we went to Afghanistan, like parents didn't allow their girls a lot to go in school or doing extra courses or every martial art or singing. None of those.
Right.
Yeah, but when time passed, they realized that women and men's rights are equal and they can do whatever they want, and they have freedom. They just recognize that and they realize that, and everything got better, but in one night everything fell down.
That's all it took.
Yeah.
Because that was the change that started happening, and the beautiful blue burqas that weren't so beautiful because they hid every woman's face, but it was also protection for them, right? So that people wouldn't recognize when they went. But you could see women lawyers and women professors and women parliamentarians.
Yeah.
So you had something to strive for.
Yeah, we had.
So now what's your plan?
So it is so hard to think about future, because at the first time when I think about future, everything change in the way that I never could imagine that. So now my plan is to going university, or nowadays I am planning to doing the pilot course if I can, to be a pilot. Yeah, nowadays I'm trying to do that, or I'm just trying to find a little bit information about that, how to do that, when and how much it costs, or everything.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you say it's hard to think about the future because you have experienced it just being ripped away.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of in this
I'm trying
a little
to
bit of
balance.
limbo. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to build myself again and think about future again and make my dreams. Yeah.
It's just going to take time.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
But you have that sense of possibility now. Like you're sitting there saying, maybe I'll go to university, maybe I'll become a pilot. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the good point, and I'm very happy about that. Yeah.
How are the other girls? I met a whole group of you in Ottawa that day. Farang, I remember, who was a big Britney Spears fan, and she is does she want to sing? Are there?
Yeah. So all of us now. So as you told, now our way is open, and we can do what we want, and our dream is possible in here. So most of us trying to go university and continue our study and make a good future for ourselves and help our people in back home and other women in the world.
So what do you do? I mean, it's hard to imagine this, but because of the pandemic and there's been lots of issues around that, what do you do for fun?
For fun, so nowadays I'm working, and and my fun for nowadays is I have 2 days off in week, and I'm going to martial art on those days, and that's my fun thing in nowadays. And after that, I'm going with my friends, and after that we talk a little bit, we go outside a little bit, and it makes me feel better.
And do you feel like at school, does everybody understand your story? Do they know, are they good about that, or do they think you're a strange bird?
So in a school, like my teacher, they are really care about us, and they understand our story, they listen our story, and they kind of feel that, and they imagine how we pass all of them. And I appreciate that. They're very good and very kind.
So have you got friends outside your group of Afghan girls that have come here? Are you making other friends through martial arts or other things?
Everyone is trying to like make new friends or meet new people or build communication.
Right.
Yeah, we do.
What do you think about in the late at night before you've fallen asleep? What do you miss about the home that you once had? Not the way Afghanistan is today with the Taliban, obviously, but before. What do you cherish about your time growing up?
Sorry, I couldn't get it.
I know it's a difficult question. Let me try again. So when you think back about your time in Afghanistan or even Pakistan, I mean, the good things, like what do you miss about that life? What do you want from that life that you don't have here?
At that time, so as I told, I was youngest
of all these brothers and sisters.
Yeah. So I had no responsibilities when I was in my back home. I just went to school, going to martial art, taking my classes, and all my attention was on my school and my classes.
You were just free to...
I was free all the time, and I didn't care about nothing. But from the day that our journey started, I take responsibility of myself and my mom and dad, and because they're old, and I did lots of things that, like, more than that, a 18 or 19 years old girl can do that, and I'm proud of myself sometimes. And when I feel down or when I think that everything is overwhelming and everything is like hard, I try to tell myself that I pass all of those, so I can do that again. And I miss that free girl that did nothing and had no responsibility.
That doesn't know what you know now and doesn't have all that responsibility. I mean, that is a lot for a young girl to take on, and try and keep your parents, help them get through there, to try and keep everybody alive, to leave family behind. It's do you still get sad about those things? Like you talked a little bit about sometimes you're a little depressed or a little sad.
Like when a person leave everything behind and just come here with nothing and start a new life, I think it is like normal. And I miss my family, and I miss how we was together. And in a month all of us just separated all around, and
Yeah.
sometimes it feels so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you think there'll be a day when you can all see each other again?
I hope so. Yeah, it will happen, not soon, but yeah,
Not
it will
soon.
not soon. It will take a long time.
But that's going to take then work on your part. Like you're going to
Yeah.
dedicate part of your life to this, I'm assuming.
Yeah. When we met, I will be a pilot and everyone be another. Yeah. So.
You can get the planes over there and take them out.
Yeah.
Well, it's really lovely to have a chance to talk to you here, and I hope people really hear your story, because it is, for this age, you've had to deal with a lot. We think it's hard in North America and Canada if you have to leave home to go to school, or if you have to leave home to go to a job. You had to leave home to save your life.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it was my pleasure to meet you.
Yeah,
And
it's
thank
really,
you.
really nice to have this conversation. So Umulbanin Arjmand, there, I got it out twice, 19 years old, an amazing story. And we thank you for being you.
Thank you for.
Yeah, and telling
me a
us this
chance.
story and being so able to share it so that we can get a better understanding. It's
Thank
really,
you for your
yeah.
time.
Good luck, and I will see you on a
Thank
plane
you.
sometime that you're flying.
Absolutely.
You can
My
do that
pleasure.
Saskatoon to Ottawa route, okay?
Yeah, great. I'm planning to do that.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thanks again.
Thank
and
you.
all the very best. Lots
You're
of love to
welcome.
you and your family, and strength.
Thank you.
That is it for this edition of No Nonsense. We'll see you soon.